Hey there, Internet. It's time for some more drawing. I actually been drawing all day. So, end of first 2 days of new prop design job. Went very well, I think. Day one, the last live stream was the night before. I was up a little late just because, well, my brain was a little active. So I wound down working on that one panel after doing some other work. And now I'm back to that one panel tonight to wrap it up. The first 2 days, the first day was like pretty much all of the time was meetings all morning, meet and greets, and sort of establishing what's what and some tutorial introductions to software that I've nonetheless had to go back and ask many questions. I've been assured that was expected. We have an in-house architecture, workflow architecture that's pretty powerful, but complicated. Stuff that we used to just write on sheets of paper back in last time I did studio work, it was all, we just had like a template page form that we would write stuff in, and that would be it, and it would all go in a big binder. So the replacement for a binder has a lot more functionality. It's a lot, it's searchable, and I imagine the clients, I'm not sure if it's sent to the clients or if we send them a package. I don't know. Anyway, it seems like a very useful system, but it takes a little getting used to. There was so small detail. I'm the only prop designer on the show for this season, so far anyway. They said if it ends up being a problem, we can bring on more. But I just did my prop list for episode 1, and I don't know, we're going to have to see how the week goes, next week goes. But I feel like once things settle in, it should be doable, particularly if we have cleanup artists, which is planned. So we have a cleanup crew. So I don't have to make everything spit and polish, finish pretty necessarily. I'm sort of dialing in what's the best drawing mode to use. Something cleaner than the roughs I did for the test, but not as tight as the finishes. A lot of the style guide stuff that I wondered about for the test, I expected to kind of see a style guide telling me, use these settings to get that line. That exists, but it was in shop, in-house. There was ones from past seasons that I could look at, so that's good. And I've been using that while I do designs to inform how I handle stuff. But being the only prop designer means that I'm basically self-supervising. Left to my own means, not entirely. So I have, obviously I answer to the director, and I answer or work with, I'm not sure how the hierarchy works, but we have production. We're probably going to have production assistants, I believe, who will do a lot of, like when I made the prop list, they'll do a lot of that work in the future. And it wasn't a problem. I remembered how to do it. Old institutional knowledge from when I worked at Nelvana in the 90s in Cynic Group. But and making a prop list at the beginning of a show, it pretty much just comes down to going through the storyboard, which have a working copy of the storyboard and the script. Because they're both in progress, they don't even quite match each other, but the description of events do. But things are like being edited on the fly and changed, so what's seen XYZ in the script might be a little different. They may have cut some stuff or moved things around. in the storyboard, and about half the board at this point has the director's notes on it, and he's left some specific instructions for me for props. And the rest of it, I'm just looking at it and kind of, well, a character interacts with it, and it's not a thing, not a person or an animal, which would be considered a character as well, a living thing. Therefore, it is my domain. It is props. So it gets added to the list. And I forget how many now, but I think it's like 50 or 60 for the first show of the season. Not even 30. That may go up though, because that's just what was obvious to me. Once they finish the storyboard, they'll do their own count and upload it to the workflow software I was mentioning earlier, and we will then check to see what I might have missed or whatever. But I wanted to start getting working before they finished the board this week, because at the very least I needed to, well, I personally needed to do a little drawing. That is what these hands are here for to do. Oh yeah, I wanted to bring up the chat in case anyone decides to join. Let me just do that. And by the way, I've got my Discord link. My Discord live feed is up. So if you feel like joining me in the Discord, interesting. Okay, so go here. Just pause that. Well, no, I do want to hear it. I just don't want to. Or when I see it, I don't want to hear it. There. So I have the YouTube chat open. And let's get rid of my face. You've seen enough of me. This is going to be a drawing session for a bit. I have a student in a couple of hours in Thailand. A former student of mine from here in Montreal. Well, I think I don't know if they live here or if they were visiting. Her nephew. She bought her nephew 5 lessons from me. And he's in Thailand. So at 11 in the morning, he meets me for 11 p.m. cartooning tutorial, which has been interesting. Needs to do more of his homework. I would say that's generally a truism, regardless of like age or whatever. Most people who want to be artists, who I've taught, are earnest in it, but not everyone has really. So many people say things like bitten by the bug a lot. And in my head, that always meant that they were compelled to draw, whether they're good or not, often. And then sometimes, once you get to that point, once you're doing it frequently, you have tenacity and frequency. And you're doing it whether the drawings are great or not. If you learn how to not just repeat the same patterns, but observe, study, and refine your process, then even without a teacher, I think you will get better. A teacher will help guide you. And I think one of the big things that teachers bring to it is, you can be someone who's drawn for years, and it just takes the right teacher or mentor, or even just listening to an interview with a creator, which you should do lots of. Or perhaps you catch one of my live streams and I say something, and the way I frame it unpacks the idea for you in a way that it hadn't been before. And suddenly you understand something. That can happen. That could be a doing thing where you're actually just drawing and you make a mark and you go, oh, and you make some more marks like that and find a way to do a new thing. And occasionally it's a thing where you make a mark and you're like, oh, I've seen that before. That's how they did that thing I saw before. And sometimes you make a mark and you're like, I've never seen that before, but it's kind of neat. It's rare that you've genuinely invented a new thing. You just didn't know about it. Someone else has probably done it before. It's not a knock against you or your process. It's just, a lot's been done. And I'm not particularly worried about stressing the need for mandatory innovation. I like to innovate. I like to experiment is actually what I like to do. So I like to innovate for myself, which the point being, it doesn't matter if it's been done before. The point is I haven't done before, and now I am. And that's brought a new thing to the table. And that can come with the help of a teacher, again, saying something or showing something in a demo that unpacks a new idea for you. It can happen just from brute force doodling and repetition and practicing and experimentation. There's no right way to find those eureka moments. But they'll happen if you're drawing more frequently. That's pretty straightforward, really. If you draw once a week, then once a week you give yourself an opportunity to have a eureka moment. And they don't happen every time you sit down to draw. Sometimes you're just off or whatever. And, if you draw twice a week, then you've doubled your chances of having a eureka moment. If you draw thrice a week, thrice a week, I like thrice. I was listening to an Indian lady talk in the news the other day. She kept using nice turns of phrase like that. It's like, oh, I know it is the language of the occupier and colonizers, but there's some nice moments in English. That's the only language I know well. Brief aside, I'm actually getting to look at and process a lot more French than I normally do, so I do hope that my meager and pathetic French skills improve. But I'm not going to stress it too much because animation is largely an industry about being able to do the job. And there are people on my crew, fairly senior, who've just moved here from places like BC, relatively speaking, to start working on this show. There are people in BC and other parts of the world. We have one of the designers, I forget which department he's in. I'll have to make a note next time I see him on the thing to check that. But he's in the Philippines. Yeah. Poor bugger for meetings and stuff. Oh my god. Although, I'm being challenged by the need to get up mornings. I'll manage, but I'm definitely feeling a little bit of jet lag effect from changing my sleep patterns. Mostly for me, that means I'll sleep weird intermittently bits and wake up every hour or two. I usually fall back asleep, and if I can get 6 to 7.5 hours, I'm good. I don't actually necessarily need a whole 8 to be good. Every once in a while I'll want to sleep for 10 hours, and it's catch-up time, but I can not feel particularly fatigued or anything doing a week of 7 hours and 6 hour nights. I'm not necessarily a long sleeper. Compared to my wife, who definitely is. If you let her, she'll sleep 12 hours. No problem. Ironically, like, I have no problem falling asleep, but I might wake up frequently. She has a very hard time falling asleep, but when she's asleep, forget it. It's down. Someone hit her with a stick or something. As in, someone did. Not that you should. No hitting my wife with a stick. Just doing like the shadows patterns of the ground. In case you're wondering what that's about. Classic Toth style spotting patterns of black to suggest structure. I definitely think it'll be cool to do. I've been kind of giving a little bit of a break to the comic jams I was hosting online. And there's a lot of people at the new studio. It's been around for a while, but they've gone virtual. We do have a downtown office, which nicely, once things get sorted and we're no longer in orange or red alerts here in Montreal, I actually kind of look forward to going in some days and working at the studio, particularly for like meetings and stuff, probably. I think one of the things that the workflow they've worked out, even with the bugs it still has, but it's like very effective. It's very doable to be doing a show like this. What that means is, so even when we do get to where we can go back to workplaces and classrooms and restaurants and all that, it'll be possible for those of us like myself who actually do like working from home, frankly, and I've been doing it a long time already, to, if we choose, continue to do that. But in the meantime, folks at work talk about missing our 5 en sets. So in Montreal, that's your 5 to 7s. After work, catching a couple of drinks with co-workers, or hanging out, or whatever. It's also become kind of a general term used even when it's not that time of day, for a casual couple hours hanging out somewhere. The director and several others talked about wanting to try to plan some distance, park-based 5 en sets where we can all keep our distance but still spend a little time. That's a popular approach to surviving during the pandemic. I think a lot of people see it, and if you see people in the park at a distance, they look a lot closer together than they necessarily. It depends. Some people probably fuck it up and get too close. But it is possible to hang out in a park together with a bit of distance and still enjoy some company. So, I understand that. But I am also a confirmed hermit. And I don't particularly mind. It was largely of my own doing. I'll keep my key line. Except for where he's touching the ground. That's where it fuses, because he's touching it. Let's fill in that bit. Oops. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. People at the studio like 5 en sets. And then there's a lot of cartoonists at animation studios. So I bet this crowd would enjoy a comic jam at some point. Depends. Like some people, and you're talking about professional artists who spend all day drawing things. Some people are like, oh God, no, not more drawing. But there are a lot of us who like doodling and enjoy the opportunity to cut loose and be silly, and then also do more improvisational collaboration with people you've been drawing with at work for quite a while. That can be interesting. You get to learn new things about your coworkers. I think I'm going to use the same keyline effect for this pole. Yeah. There we go. Jumps out the way I wanted it to. I also had a student send me some work just before I started working shifts. So, sorry, Raf. I will have to get back to that, and this weekend maybe sometime. It's not the best timing. Not that he could know. I couldn't really look at it at the moment. I got contacted by a site whose service is basically hosting online workshops and events and things. Like their homepage has people in what looks like a Zoom style group meeting doing yoga together. And I imagine they want to host other things. They've written me about, we'll pay you to put on a thing. It's like, dudes, if you'd gotten to me months ago, maybe we could have set up a little empire together. No, exaggerate a little. And I might still use them, but right now I'm like, well, I am now quite busy. And kind of happy because it's a job where I don't have to manage the clients. I just have to do the work. That's kind of nice to do for a change as a freelancer. Just do the drawings. Try to nail the style guide. I watched the entire, so the show I'm working on is F for Family. And I still have some of the middle seasons to catch up on, but I watched the first season and the fourth season in their entirety over the last couple of days. Interesting show. I'm very pleased to have gotten the job working on this show. I think, like, this is written by a Simpsons guy. I'm going to blank on your names. Sorry, dudes. Sorry, bosses. Let me think for a minute. So it's Bill Burr. And one of the writers from The Simpsons again. I forget his name now. Bill Burr and... What is it again? Let's look it up. Michael Price. Mr. Price. Bill Burr and Michael Price. They're the writers in the show. And they've tread a line that I'm pretty happy about. Like, it's one of those shows where there's a lot of like raw stuff. And it could just be obnoxious. Easily. I'm sure there's somebody who just finds it obnoxious, but I think it's actually a fairly honest depiction of a particular kind of type of working class American experience. and it's not, you know, it definitely doesn't punch down. Some of the characters might, but it's pretty solid. And it's got a lot of soul, a lot of heart. So that's nice to see. Very reassuring. I look forward to watching the rest this weekend. Binge through it all. I will be an expert by Monday. That's good. I don't need to fill in that bit there. So I want this area in the bottom here to be lighter, and that will help with the dark. This stuff, especially in where the tree is, being much more gnarly and dark. That'll help with the depth. So the shading I'm doing now. Just want to suggest that the ground around the tree has been affected or stained or singed when it burnt. This is, of course, a very different style of drawing from what I'm doing on the show, the job, which is good because the stuff on the show is way faster. This is my personal work. I don't mind if I take forever. Producers, they would mind. I would not keep my job if I went this slow. This is about making me happy, so I take my time. But that's kind of nice, being able to turn around jobs, turn around drawings in an hour or two, and be done with them. Relatively speaking. There's always revisions and notes. I'll probably have to be doing more variants. My instinct is to sort of do one or two, but one thing that definitely came up is that last season they would send at least two. I think there's some of the basic stuff we'll just give them one, like I'm doing a baby bottle in one scene, and that, you know, there's a lot of different kinds of baby bottles back then, so I just did one kind. It seemed pretty basic. Don't want to get too fussy with a baby bottle. It's going to be in one shot. Might come back. That's definitely a prop that will get reused in this show, but different views anyway. But so the animation's a very, you know, comics are labor intense, and they're kind of crazy because it's usually one person or a small crew. And for commercial comics, the schedules are insane. I mitigate that by not doing commercial schedules, and I might be one person crew, but because I'm not worried about trying to make a monthly book or something, I can just take the time I need to take to make it good. Hopefully worth whatever probably eminently affordable amount of money will be asked for readers to part with. This is how I spend my Friday nights. How about you? Talking to a camera alone in a room. Drama, comic books. Hey, you know, it's the dream. That's not a joke. This is what I wanted to be doing. And I really do hope this, it's like this first 3-month contract. I'm self-supervising one-man band design department, and then there's a chance for a second contract for a much longer production good period of work as a supervisor with a handful of people on a crew doing prop designs. By the way, if you're interested, if you've got some chops, you can draw a relatively sort of very clear line, realistic style, and you want a job working in animation, and it can actually be, from what I can tell, from anywhere, as long as you've got the equipment to do it locally wherever you are. So good internet connection, a decent computer, drawing, digital drawing tools. Then Oasis Animations in Montreal are in fact hiring. Tell them that I sent you. They're looking for more crew. So jump on that if you're looking for a gig. Maybe you'll get to be my cleanup artist or one of my other cohorts at Oasis. Possible. Work's got to be good, and you do have to be any kind of commercial drawing work. You have to be process oriented, which means that you're able to do a thing even when you're, this kind of animated TV show work. It's not inspiration based. It's not that you can never get inspiration and use that in your work. That inspiration has to fit the confines of what the show does. So like if you got the itch suddenly to try out a really cool fantasy adventure gothic wild baroque cool thing and you happen to be on the crew of The Simpsons, well, you're not going to be doing that on The Simpsons. But the nice thing about a gig like working on a show like The Simpsons is if you can learn to manage your time well, and a lot of that comes down to like being smart about workflow and not getting too bogged down in administrative stuff and just getting your drawing done, then it is very possible to make a living on the quick and fast type of stuff that you do for animation, and then with some time in the evenings work on your own thing like I'm doing right now. But you do have to do it. Like I think a lot of people feel they need a certain amount of downtime, mandatory. And I just like to, gently point out that's a decision you're making for yourself. There's definitely a certain amount you need in terms of like what your body will take, but a lot of people will spend way more time hanging out, loafing, gaming, going to the bar. Then they, strictly speaking, like need to survive. But doing that will kind of eat into your ability to do other things, which is fine. I don't like it when people like insult someone for making those choices. But just be aware of the choices, and if your goal is to do like a graphic novel, it's very possible you're going to have to make some uncomfortable for you initially choices. Thing is, if you're able to do by making those choices, if you're able to get things you really love done, it really quickly becomes worth it to you. At least I find, to invest that energy and stick at it for something that may not leave you as much free time as you might think is somehow culturally mandated. It has been noted occasionally on my videos that I periodically get political. There we go. Cannot speak. And it's true. I'm definitely more of the work to live than live to work or persuasion. And a lot of that comes down to managing our consumptory habits and time you spend hanging out on a couch playing video games is consumption. That's consumption time. You're consuming media. And I'd probably do it less than I should. So I'm not saying do it the way I do, but I think that's definitely something a lot of people need to come to terms with, the fact they have to do less of if they want to be very productive. They have to spend more time get back here. Okay. I'm going to go. How long am I doing this? 3 minutes. Well, I gotta go prepare for student and have something to eat. So I'll see you all later on the internet. Remember, patreon.com/salgood. Read all my comics for just $2 a month. As a patron, you support my work, and they pay for it too. Legitimately, it's a good deal. I don't know why I turned Italian there for some reason. Dream Life, Therefore Pent, my revolvers, the look at the work in progress on Mind Engine, lots of other old stuff, all available for you as soon as you pledge. Then $5 social media portraits, and $10 still a couple of student patron positions available. Help me make the comics, and yeah, would be cool. I'll see you there, and catch you around the internets.